Hello fellow cinephiles, my name is Christina and welcome to another Let's Get Reel's movie review. Today is Classic Movie Thursdays, my version of Throwback Thursdays. Today's movie I will be reviewing is called I Walked with a Zombie from 1943. I Walked with a Zombie is not what we have come to think of zombie movies today. There's no exorcist-looking creatures roaming the streets and getting their heads blown off with a shotgun. This is about voodoo and all the rituals that come with it and what the sect believes that the dead can rise and walk the earth again. I Walked with a Zombie is about a nurse named Betsy Connell who has been called for from Canada to go down to the Caribbean island of St. Sebastian to care for a woman named Jessica Holland. She was sent for by Jessica's husband, Paul Holland, played by Tom Conway. At dinner the night that Betsy arrives, she hears drums off in the distance. Wes, Paul's brother, played by Tom Ellison, explains that the drums are coming from a place called the Home Fort, where the natives practice and hold their voodoo rituals. That night, Betsy hears crying coming from the tower where Jessica has been placed. She goes to look and see what is happening, and she sees Jessica, this very creepy, very emotionless woman, walking towards her. The next day, Jessica's doctor explains to Betsy that Jessica had come down with a tropical fever, which put her in a zombie-like state. Paul and Wes both blame themselves for what has happened to Jessica because Paul wasn't around much and Wes wound up having an affair with her. Betsy becomes determined to help Paul because, big shock, they have fallen in love. And despite not believing in voodoo, Betsy takes Jessica one night to the Home Fort to see what they can do for her. The natives are fascinated by Jessica because she is already in this zombie-like state. So as part of their ritual, they actually take a sword and prick Jessica, and she doesn't bleed. And this makes the natives so fascinated in her that they incessantly beat their drums as a way to try and call for her, to bring her back to the Home Fort. And they even, at one point, send out this really creepy looking guy who is like a zombie himself to go and get her, but they manage to fight the guy off when he comes towards the house to go get Jessica. In the end, the voodoo believers of the Home Fort have the last say in what happens to Jessica. The story of I Walked with a Zombie is fantastic, especially because nothing like it had been done before. There were horror movies that came before the 1940s, during the 20s and the 30s, but nothing like it had been done. You had your Frankenstein, your Draculas, your werewolves, what have you, but there was nothing like a zombie. And there was nothing really that touched on voodoo, or if there had been, voodoo wasn't shown in a very good way. It was just like kind of shown silly, even if it was dramatic. So I Walked with a Zombie kind of treats voodoo as something interesting, and it created this very ambiguous story. Like, you don't know if Jessica became that way because she had been sick, but somebody wanted to save her, so they put a voodoo spell on Jessica so that she wouldn't die, or if it really was from this tropical fever that just fried her brain. The first time watching I Walk with a Zombie can be a little nerve-wracking because you don't know what's going to happen and you don't know what's going to come along. But maybe that's because when we think of voodoo, we think of dark magic, we think of something really, really scary and all these people just coming and walking around like zombies, just not as terrifying. And that really makes this story suspenseful, is that you don't know what's going to come along and what's going to happen, and also the ambiguousness of the story too. There's really not a lot of music in this movie, and usually in films we have music cues. The music builds up at a moment of suspense, and once you know something is going to happen, when it's a very tense moment, you hear the music build and build and build, and finally it cuts because that scary thing happens. But not in I Walked with a Zombie. There's no music, and it just keeps you on the edge of your seat because you have no idea what is coming. And I first watched this movie years and years ago when it was on a TCM before it was released on DVD because Frances D is in it. Now, unfortunately, Frances D is not very well known, which is an absolute shame. She was a very, very good actress. She was so incredibly beautiful, and she's just so underrated. She was great in this movie. She was excellent. I really enjoyed her acting. She did a great job. She had great chemistry with Tom Conway and Tom Ellison as well. I Walked with a Zombie is not a conventional Golden Age of Hollywood movie. As I previously said, nothing like it had really been done before, and nothing like it would really happen again for a few decades, or if at all. It is based off of the story of Jane Eyre, and if you have either read the book like I have, or if you have seen the various versions of the movie like I have, already what the basic idea of the story is. And it's great. It works very well with this, with the idea of voodoo. Besides the ambiguousness of I Walked with a Zombie, which makes this movie one of my absolute favorites, is because the romance between the main female character and the main male character is not the main focus, and I love that. I mean, I'm all for romance in some movies, but when it doesn't call for it and it gets thrown in there, it just messes the whole thing up. But again, it's based off of Jane Eyre, and as I said, if you know the story, you have a good understanding of I Walked with a Zombie. I highly, highly recommend seeing I Walked with a Zombie in any way that you can. It is now, fortunately, on DVD, so if you can find it on DVD, buy it. If you can happen to catch it on TCM if they ever play it again, definitely watch it. Thank you for watching my review of I Walked with a Zombie. If you like this review in any way, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to Let's Get Reels for more Classic Movie Thursdays and other movie reviews. As always, keep watching movies and stay absolutely fabulous.